Good morning everybody and welcome to a very temporary setup for hopefully what will be a quick video, as I just wanted to show off the brand new figure display that I have been working on for the One Piece live action figures. Now this came about because of a couple of different factors, largely because the Baratie is huge and also I wanted a spot to display all of the wanted posters. And I had a look around online and once again did not find a huge amount of people doing stuff like this. There was one amazing little mock that hopefully is going up on screen, which was a wall for Luffy to sit in front of. However, I wanted to do something that would include the whole crew and then also give me a chance to include personally my favourite figures from the lineup, and that is of course the villain lineup. Once again, LEGO knocking it out of the park with some truly fantastic figure designs, especially Mihawk and Buggy, although Arlong also doing well. And I wanted to do this with future expansion in mind, because obviously I don't know when you're watching this, but the Wave 2 for Season 2 sets is coming out soon with 8 more Baroque Works dossiers, and I have been working on a potential expansion for this as well because I want to be grabbing some of those figures and so on. It is interesting that we've sort of reached the point with this where it's kind of ended up being bigger than I thought. Like, this is, I guess, fine as a display, but if you imagine this sort of sat squarely on a shelf, it's going to look a little awkward just because of the fact that, well, the siding here is completely hollow. Not so much, I guess, if you put it up against one side. So what I've decided to do is an expansion is so that we'll have this as an angle. We're going to add a sort of cuff along here for the Marines, I'll show you later. And then the Baroque work section is going to come off over here. And I've designed it with specific characters and so on in mind, but I'll show you that a bit later. But for now, let's just go over what we've got here. One big final inspiration for this was actually the separation of the bounty posters for characters that we actually have in physical form, which from the first wave, because I am still missing two, is half of them. So that would of course be the Arlong, Mihawk, Buggy ones, and then technically the Luffy one, who I'm going to stick in his hand. And you'll notice there is one more spot on the wall for the Alvida poster, which I'm also yet to pick up. Because the live action show does have really cool bounty poster intros, I wanted to try and sort of at least simulate those in some form here. And that's what we've got specifically, of course, with sort of characters like Buggy, where I wanted to use the various hands and so on to show his chop fruit and sort of have his knives. So it kind of looks like the poster has like flapped up on screen like it does in the show before he sort of crumples out of the way. Now, there's only so much I can do because obviously they can't distort them. And also these posters are fantastic. One of the big reasons we wanted to do this was to display these collectibles. And that was, of course, it was important to me that they were actually visible, so that sort of limits things. The Mihawk one was the hardest to do, and specifically it's a little unclear. So obviously he's got the small dagger blade here. He's sort of pointing that out, ready to fight, because we don't hunt rabbits with a cannon. And then of course using Yoru here, and what I've tried to do is make it look like he's swatting that out of the way, or he's slicing it, because his entry is the one where he sort of cuts through the poster. So I can't cut through the poster, and I wanted it to still be visible. I didn't want it to be completely swatted out of the way, because otherwise what's the point? But I wanted it to look like it had gotten in his way and he was sort of slicing out of the way. Now originally it was just going to be these three on a wall and then with the foil straw hats below. However, obviously as usual with me, things got out of hand and I wanted to include the coffin ship from Baratie. So that is just the necessary expansion there. But yeah, originally things were just going to be a wall here, and then obviously this is when it got completely out of hand. We even added Chew. I'm going to leave space here for Shanks as well, who is a figure I still need to pick up. I'm not going to bother buying a Windmill set because I really don't need dupes or different outfits. So these guys, I may even sell some of the duplicate Straw Hat figures. I just want the main ones, and then of course all the unique figures. But yeah, you've got space up here, and I suppose I should show you Arlong's as well. Originally I wanted it to look like he had sort of grabbed hold of it, but it kind of just looked like he was proud of his wanted poster. So instead I leaned into the Fisherman Karate angle and used a couple of energy pieces to look like he sort of splashed it out of the way or thrown it, which is not what happens in the show. But you know, what can you do? I want unique things, and this will probably end up inspiring how we end up doing the Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week ones from the Baroque Works Wave 2, because what was waiting on this to sort of do this video in the expansion was figuring out which of the 8 posters were going to be included for which members, and of course it is only those 2, so technically the success rate for figures in the Baroque Works posters are incredibly low. Fingers crossed that changes though. I'd love a Mr. 9 and Miss Valentine specifically. As for what else is here, we've obviously got the little dusty bit here. I chose to use the long arms Goofy from the Arlong Park, and he's of course wrapping around his 5 crewmates, and we've got space of course for Chopper at the front. We've got the remaining of the unincluded character posters here, so Gold Roger and Don Krieg. Had a second Don Krieg that was sort of actually damaged there, which is really interesting. So they sort of covered that up. We've got the gap for Alvida, like I mentioned, 3 Kuros, and then another couple of Gold Rogers, as well as this bush from Pab on the end. And again, this is simple, it's kind of ugly. A lot of it was done with Pab parts, but I kind of like how that showed out. So, how are we going to be expanding it? Well, as I mentioned, we're going to have an expansion over this side. Let me show you my sketch now for this. And actually, just before we move on, because I have a quick little update, because I caved. So we now have the Alvida poster and the Monkey D. Luffy poster, and then Shanks up top here. Nothing else has changed, but I wanted to showcase this as it was stuff we talked about. It is still pre-August 1st, and this video is just about to go up, so I wanted to showcase these off. Really like him, really wish we had posters for the rest of them, but this is looking great, and it's amazing how just one poster can fill in the wall. Anyway, back to the future plan. Over on the left-hand side, we've chosen to sort of straighten out the model, and you're going to go through this archway into a Baroque work style base. Originally, I wanted this to be underneath the sand. However, it started making this thing a bit monolithic and a bit tall, and I wanted to avoid that. And we're going to theme this, and hopefully you're seeing the studio renders sort of a bit more like rain base, or at least the scene where we see them sort of give the fruit to Wapple in season 2. We've got a pipe on the ceiling here in dark orange. I've tried to mix in some dark green because that is a crocodile colour, and then of course some dark bluish grey as well. Again, I've simplified details down a lot. I could have done a lot more detail, I could say, with the Modron. I could have added more plants and more wall stuff, but the goal is to make the figures and the posters and dossiers stand out here. So we want to keep everything simple but still appealing. So we're sort of simplifying down the colour palette and so on. This one, I'm not entirely sold on the implementation. So as I mentioned earlier, we're only going to have, of the 8 Baroque Works posters, the Mist 3 and the Mist Golden Week ones to actually be held by their characters. And those two are going to sit or stand even on these 2 studs here with various different wax and paint things. So, and they're going to sort of block a lot of the view. And I didn't want it to be too overshadowed. So we've tried to limit the roof here. But also behind them, you can see 6 black 2x3 tiles. And that's for the other of the 6 dossiers, which I'm not sure how that's going to look. Kind of thinking they may need to come in front of the other characters, which will then obscure Mist 3, Mist Golden. We can push them right into the back here, which won't be ideal either. So it's not entirely sure of the direction I want to go, but as I mentioned, this was inspired by Rainbow, so the reason we're doing the poses on my desk is actually to match the other base that Smoker and Tashigi go to in season 2 as well. So the goal here was to sort of make it look like the dossiers had been collected or left out, and we put a little transponder snail on this extra stud down here or something. So I like the vibes, but I think it's going to be too cluttered and not work with the characters, and I don't know, especially we're going to have to expand this if we get season 3 sets, which I really hope we do, for of course assumedly Crocodile and at least Bonclay. Who knows whether they'll touch the others, but I assume we'd get another 8 dossiers, which would make a lot of sense with the other members from Alabasta. So I would expect an expansion there, but again, I'm just really hopeful that we do get more sets. I would love to get to 7 at least, so that we could get Robucci and other characters like that. But anyway, this is not the purpose of this video. Up above, obviously this would create some extra space, and one thing that's currently missing from the display is a lot of the side characters. To be honest, from the sets I have currently, that is basically just Zeph, which, you know what, don't really care if he's on this display. But as I had the space, I decided that this will be the space where we put Zeph, and then also Correa and Hiruluk, because they will be coming with the Chopper set, which I definitely want to pick up. 1, because I really like the set design, and 2, because the figures are cool, and I'm enjoying this theme as truly one of the most sort of bright and colourful LEGO IP themes at the moment, which is really exciting because it is kind of, I guess, the modern template for what I'd expect a Zelda theme to look at. Anyway, we're not here to talk about LEGO Zelda today. So we also had a bit more space, so I decided I wanted some more height in the model, so I built this sort of quick little tower, again trying to really simplify things. And this is supposed to be a little bit of the Logetown Execution Tower, and we're going to put the dragon figure on top of here, who I don't know how I'll be getting hold of. Maybe individually, maybe I'll end up buying the Smoker Showdown set, because we'll see, we've got something planned for the Marines on the other side, and I do really want Smoker Strike. I think that should have been sold separately, but this is besides the point. The further into this rabbit hole I've gotten, the more of the figures I've ended up wanting, but hey ho, what can be done about it? Not much, it turns out. We've got the Execution Tower here, and the reason I'm okay with this is because it actually ties into the theme of the original central section. The wall is inspired, of course, by that original mock, which sort of gave me my basis for where to go off. Obviously, I wanted to expand it, as well as a little bit of the wall that we see, I believe, in the first episode of the final episode, when they're giving Luffy's poster and hanging that up in season 1, I believe, in Shell's Dam, potentially somewhere else, I don't really know. And then it was also inspired a little bit by Marineford as well, with the sort of walls and the water up the top, although not so much the sandy bit, hence why I felt comfortable including more marine architecture. And that is also then going to take us over to the right hand side, where we can look at the staircase, which is also inspired by Logetown, where we have the sort of Smoker marine bike that's going to sort of rock up here, and you're going to see him drive out of the ocean as such. and of course the bike will be parked on the water, hopefully not limiting the space too much. Smoke will be on it, and we'll have Tashigi waiting here as well, because I do plan on getting the Garp Marine battleship. Speaking of Garp, Kobe and Helmeppo from the Baratier will be sort of going down these as if they're chasing after the Straw Hat Pirates. That was actually originally part of the plan for this current version of the model that you've been looking at earlier in the thing. They were going to be sort of running in from the side towards the Straw Hat group hug section, and then that just gives us room to put Nico Robin under the stairs as well, who of course later on, I assume if we get a better outfit, will go in here. But because she's got the cowboy hat one on and is very much in Baroque works, I want her spying from a distance, not separate from the Baroque works ones, because she doesn't have one of the posters, and also because eventually she'll, I assume, have her own wanted poster that we'll be able to build off, and I'm looking forward to doing little flower builds for her as well. But either way, she'll be a great figure just to have sort of loitering near the Straw Hats to eventually join in the central section when the time comes. And that's the great thing about this, is it really is indefinitely expandable. Like if we look at what would be coming afterwards, Sky Island stuff, which to be honest, I know that it's important, but I really hope that Lark is not a full season. Either way, we could always add a cloud above another section of the water to put an Enel on, or someone. There's not many figures from that arc that I would particularly want to see. And even if you look right down the line towards your scenes like Impel Down, we could always change out the Baroque Works dungeon, or questionable wedding, for an Impel Down underwater scene. And again, everything can be expanded. I already estimated the Baroque Works section is going to have to be doubled if we do get set space of Alabaster. I really do hope that the live action continues. It's a delightful, sort of warm and comfy show that reminds me a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean, despite having not much in common. And I've enjoyed working my way through the manga and anime as well. And yeah, the figures that are coming out of this theme, and just the theme as a whole, is also great. It's lovely to have a playset IP-based theme that is as strong as the One Piece theme is. And if you'd like me to talk more about that, perhaps I will in my summer sets video if we get around to that this year. But yeah, if you guys want me to talk more about this theme and why I think it specifically is working so well, do let me know down below. Lastly, of course, I want to mention the practicality of this. Now, at this point, having a fig display like this is actually really cute. It's quite nice and small, and well, it doesn't take up as much shelf space as the Baratier, which is an amazing model, and I do want to have. And actually, the Baratier really suits the season 1 characters quite well, just because they are actually all there at one point, of course, with Mihawk visiting for the Zoro fight, Arlong and Chu obviously being there for the sort of hostile takeover, and Buggy's head, of course, being on the table as well. So it's really nice that the biggest set can hold all these figures, but you can only display it one of the two ways around. It doesn't really highlight the figures. However, on the other hand, it means that, well, my Baratier is lovely and empty, which is really sad, and I would like to put the Mihawk and Zoro duel back on the front and so on. So it's a bit of a toss-up. It's kind of going to, I think, depend on what I am displaying, what I have room for at the time. And I think this will continue to change, because obviously as I expand this display, it's going to be cute and all, but at some point it will just become more efficient to put the sets that I really like with the figures on them, instead of having this random sort of squared off clunky model that is going to only expand with the future seasons. That being said, I didn't order any parts for this. It was really easy to do. Just did it for my spare parts and various different BAP orders, and I really do like the one to poster integrations with Buggy, Mihawk and Arlong, so hopefully that will be something that I continue to mess around with and stick true to, because I do think that has a place even in my permanent display of the sets whenever we get around to that in the future. So yeah, while this was a great experiment and works really now, I think the longer this team goes on, if it does continue, this will become increasingly impractical, especially because, what do you mean, there are so many iconic moments in the sets that are sort of represented that of course I'm going to want the figures in there. I'm not going to want them to be empty. I mean, eventually I assume the merry. I've avoided it for now. I think is one set I could potentially avoid, but if you have it, you're going to put the Straw Hats on it. So yeah, this is going to become, I think, less important over time. It may be that I scale things back and just do something smaller for the posters. I am aware that the posters can fit on the side of the Windmill Village hut, but I want somewhere that they can be nice and prominent. So maybe I'll end up doing some sort of notice board outside of Baratier, or something for the people that don't have figures. If LEGO wants to fix this, just give as many figures of all the posters, although let's be realistic, that's not going to happen. Although I am hopeful that we'll return to some season 2 sets in 2027, because I don't think the next season of the show will be out by then. So maybe a smaller wave that could cover a couple of the missing characters would be lovely. Either way, I'm going to leave my ramblings there. Let me know if you want more, and I will see you guys again very, very soon. Bye bye.